in that beast power, or the United States of America, they're making an image, means inside the country, there are people inside the country that are going to promote the same principles as the papacy, right? That's going to speak blasphemy just like the papacy was. That's going to go against God's law. As you know, Daniel 7, which I think is verse 25, says he's our thing to change times and laws, right? So they're going to be promoting the same type of principles, which would be mirrored just like the first beast. And the people that would be promoting that in the American states would be apostate Christianity, or as we call it, apostate Protestantism. Oh, okay.
Great question. So let's read it out
Yeah.
loud here. Rebel of Christ says, what exactly is the image of the beast spoken of Revelation 13? Is it a person or an object? Let's go there. Go to Revelation chapter 13. Let's put it up on the screen so we can read it together. All right. So Revelation 13, and Randy, I thought I saw your hand. You want to give a jab at it, right? I'll read the verses, and I'll let you make some comments on it. Okay. So beginning in verse, let's see here. Yeah, verse 11. Speaking about the second beast, there's two beasts in the book of Revelation, chapter 13. As I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon. Now, just to show some differences here, the first beast comes out of the sea. The second beast, this one, comes out of the earth. Seas, according to Revelation chapter 17, represents peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. So the ocean represents a populated area where the beast comes. And by the way, according to Daniel chapter 7, a beast in Bible prophecy represents nations, government nations. So we have a nation. We have two nations coming up in two areas. We've got one coming up in a heavily populated area. When it's the opposite, which is Earth, would be a less populated area. Doesn't mean it was completely void of people. It's just less populated area. This beast comes out of that area, right? And then it says he has two horns like a lamb, spoke as a dragon. Lamb in scripture is reminiscent of Jesus. So it seems to me like this beast comes up with Christian virtues, Christian ideas, things that is reminiscent of Christ. And then it says, and he exercised all the power of the first beast before him and causes. Now, when it says causes, a government, a nation can only cause by enacting laws. So we have this second beast coming up out of a area that's not so populated, has Christian values, but later speaks as a dragon, right? So it doesn't fully reflect the character of Christ. It's just got some elements of it. He speaks as a dragon. And in that sense, and then when he does that, it says he causes or enacts laws to cause the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast. So we have a beast coming out that is not just a governmental beast, but it's also enacting religious laws because it causes all to worship. So in other words, this nation that arises seems to violate its own principles because Christianity separates it causes a separation between the things that are God and things that are Caesar's, right? Jesus says, give unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, give unto God that which is God. That's a virtue of Christ, of Christianity. If it says it comes up as a lamb, it would naturally have that. But then it changes character, and then it actually gives to then it actually causes all to worship, right? So it goes from lamb to dragon, causing all to worship. So it starts enacting religious laws, and then it causes through those religious laws to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. Okay. All right. As we read down, I'll get up to the image part, and then I'll let you take it from there, Randy. So scroll down a little bit to where it starts mentioning the image. It says here in verse 14, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. So it performs these miracles in the sight of the first beast, and says, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast that had the wound by a sword and did live. And then it says that he had power to give life to the image of the beast. So the people gathered together, made an image to the beast. And then by the power of the government, it gives strength or power to that image of that beast, that it should speak and cause. That means that it now it has the power to enact laws, because nations can only cause by enacting laws, that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. All right, Randy, I read it for you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, actually. And so I think you kind of definitely set the backdrop in regards to the image. So if we understand the first beast, then we don't have the time now, but if you study Daniel chapter 7, you can kind of see more of the identification that it came up out of the fourth beast, right? And this was came up from the fourth beast. I think Daniel 7 verses 7 and 8 was plucked up three kingdoms. I think it's verse 8. It ruled for 1260 years. I think it's verse 25. It wore out the saints of the Most High, which means it caused some level of persecution in regards to God's people. Definitely 1260 year period, which people known as the Dark Ages. And so when we see all these things, we can see that it also spoke words against the Most High, which was blasphemous in regards to what it said. And when you do all this study, you realize the fact that this beast, this first beast, represents the papacy, right? And you see that outline in Daniel 7, right? Now, if you also see in Revelation 13, go back up the chapter, Jay, right? And so we see here that in this composite beast, right, is the same as Daniel chapter 7. And you see, and I think Edwin did a good job as far as explaining that the fact that it came out of the water. See, we know that Revelation 17:15 means multitude of nations and tongues and people. So it came out of a densely populated area. And then the second beast in Revelation 13, it came out of a sparsely populated, or the sand or the earth, right? So it definitely had. So we definitely can see the fact that it was a minimally populated. We understand that to be America, and Edwin explained the fact that um it speaks through its laws, has a lamb, which is kind of like what Christian values, speak as a dragon. Here's the thing, though. Now we see the first beast. We understand to be the papacy. Papacy is not only a a national country or a state of or a kingdom, whatever you want to call it, but it also is a religious power as well. Right now, you have the second beast, which is a state or a nation or country, right? And it speaks through the law. Now, this country was supposed to promote Christian values as far as you've seen the two horns of a lamb, but he really spoke as a dragon. Now, the reason why this image is important is because it's really well, we have to figure out the image to the beast. It means that it has to mirror what the beast does.
That's right.
You
That's the
follow what I'm
key right
saying?
there.
A mirror just really reflects exactly what the beast does. So the beast, or the second beast, is not necessarily the mirror per se, but what it does, and it sees in verse 14, it says that they should make an image to the beast. So what it's saying is this second beast is going to force people in that country, or in other words, the United States of America, are going to enforce people in that country to make an image or to have things or done that will replicate the principles and ideas in regards to the first beast. Now go back to verse 4, Jay. Go back to verse 4. Notice something, right? So we see again, we just want to emphasize again, it not only was a country, but it was also a religious power. Verse 4 says, and they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, who was like unto the beast, who was able to make war with him? Right? Look at verse 5. It says, and there was given him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. Now, friends, we know what blasphemy is, right? Yes, right. It's speaking
Yeah.
anything against God, right? I think that's Mark 2:7. I think John 10:33 are two definitions also, as far as trying to give, forgiveness of sins, or one who tries to stand in the place of God, right? I think John 10:33 and Mark 2:7 are two definitions in regards to blasphemy. And power is given him 42 months. That's another way of saying 1260 years. Keep going, Jay. Let me see verse 6 as well. It says, and he opened up his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. Again, this is Daniel 7 talk that we spoke about before. And power was given unto him, all kindreds and tongues and nations. And look at verse 8. Last verse I'll do from the beginning of the actual chapter. Verse 8, go down. Verse 8. All that dwell upon the earth shall worship him whose names was not written in the book of Lamb, a book of the life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. We can see here that this beast, right, which is the papacy, is all about worship, and we know that his authority came from the dragon, which is the devil, which is at Revelation 12:9, right? So this first beast is all about worship. The second beast didn't necessarily come up in regards to my worship. It spoke about Christian values, but if it's going to create an image to the first beast, that means it has to include or be associated with worship. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's the same values.
Exactly. Right. And we know from Revelation 13, verse 4-8, it kind of gave us some of the values, some of the highlights of what the first beast is like. And so if the second beast that comes upon the scene, right, which is the United States of America, that means they have to promote the same principles that the first beast would do. Right. Now, if we understood the fact that it spoke as a lamb, right? I'm sorry, it had two horns like a lamb, but spake as a dragon. Right? That's verse 13, Jay. Am I correct? Just be sure. Which one? Oh, sorry, that's 11. Thank you. Thank you for clearing that up. So that means not only is this coming from America, because that's the second beast, we identified that, it has to come from a specific sect or population in the country. And very simply, friends, if it has two horns like a lamb, that means it must be coming from a Christian people. Are you guys following? Are you guys with me? Yep. Right? I want to make sure you understand it. So again, the image to the beast is not America. The second beast is America. But if he's creating an image to the first beast, that means it has to have the same principles as the first beast. And so if they spoke as a lamb, two horns like a lamb and spake as a dragon, that means this has to be coming from a Christian sect. Right? But if you are having horns like a lamb and speaking as a dragon, that means very specifically, this is speaking about apostate Christianity. Right? Because again, he's making an image to the beast, but he has two horns like a lamb, right? This beast has two horns like a lamb, spoke as a dragon. And in that beast power, or the United States of America, they're making an image, means inside the country, there are people inside the country that are going to promote the same principles as the papacy, right? That's going to speak blasphemy just like the papacy was. That's going to go against God's law. As you know, Daniel 7, with I think it's verse 25 says, he thought things to change times and laws, right? So they're going to be promoting the same type of principles, which would be mirrored just like the first beast. And the people that would be promoting that in the American states would be apostate Christianity, or as we call it, apostate Protestantism. Does that make sense? So the image to the beast, very simply, would be apostate Protestantism. I guess I can do more, but I think I made the point here. Go ahead.
Just emphasize the word apostate, by the way. So we're not saying that there aren't true believers in other Protestant churches. We're talking about those who claim to be Christians at a certain period of time when this image is formed, and they go against the very thing they're claiming. Right? They're going against Christian principles.
You know, Edwin. Wait, hold on. Sorry, but before you go in, Edwin, I'm glad you really brought that up. Thank you for bringing that up. And the reason why I said that is because this is not a shot against any specific sect or denomination in regards to Christianity. But very simply, apostate just means that you're technically, if you're apostate Christian, that means you're really against what the Bible has says or what God has already laid out. Right? So, I mean, whatever way you want to take that, that's just what it is. And so this sect of people will literally go against Bible principle, right? And they will push that. So it's not necessarily one specific denomination. It's just a group of people, whether in many denominations, that speak against what the Bible explicitly says and push that narrative. Go ahead, Edwin.
Yeah, Jay, can you show Revelation 13 real quick? Just by way of summarizing just a little bit more. So verse 14, scroll up a little bit to show verse 14. Towards the middle there, it says, saying to them that dwell on the earth. All right. So
Yeah.
the second beast says to
Dwell on the earth.
them that dwell on the earth. All right.
Yeah.
Which shows the separation that Randy was trying to show between the United States being the second beast and the people, right? Them that dwell upon the earth. Now, if the first beast, as we've understand it, and as not just Adventism, but multiple scholars from multiple denominations of time of the good times past. Nowadays, things have changed quite a bit, but historically, many Protestant leaders have identified the first beast with the papacy as the first beast. And the papacy is a is a what's the word a he claims Christianity, right? Claims Christianity, but doesn't abide by Christian principles and goes against it in its form doctrines. But if the first beast, if the first beast, the papacy, is a union of church and state, as it was in the past, because the papacy was a union of church and state because it used the state to enforce its laws and its rules and persecute people, then therefore when the image of the first beast also unite, if it's an image to that, then the obvious conclusion is that it's also a union of church and state as well. So if the first beast is a union of church and state, the image to the beast, which is the image to that first beast, would also be a union of church and state, right? And so if the first beast is professedly Christian, then the image to the beast would also be professedly Christian. Is that making any sense? Right? So you would have a professedly Christian image of individuals who have been granted power by the state, by the government of the second beast, to enforce laws, religious laws. So the image of the beast, therefore, would be apostate Christianity, right? Just as the first beast was also apostate Christianity, if that makes any sense. All right. But I like how Randy put it. It's not a shot against listen, there was always apostate believers, okay? During the time of Christ, there was a apostate Judaism, all right? And they united with the state also, okay? That was not a shot against real Jews who were actually Jews and really believed in Yahweh and then accepted Christ. It wasn't a shot at them, but the fact of the matter is that they united with the state. That's what happened with Pontius Pilate, and they condemned Jesus. And what we're seeing is a repetition of that very thing taking place in the last days. Yes, there are true Christians, true believers in all churches. We believe that. But nevertheless, what we're seeing here is a union of church and state among professed believers, as we saw a union of church and state among professed believers during the time of Christ, to persecute those who keep the commandments of God and have the faith of Jesus, according to Revelation 14:12. Okay? There shouldn't be anything shocking. It's a repetition of what we see happening in history.
Amen. Can I just add something to this? So to answer more directly, what is the image of the beast spoken in Revelation? Is it a person or an object? It's neither a person or an object. Actually, it's a principle, right? Because the first beast, it was a real kingdom that had laws. The second beast is going to create laws that resemble the laws of and the ideology of the first beast. So it's going to be, a principle or an organization of ideology, an organization of law that resembles the law of the first beast and the ideology of the first beast. It's not going to be something like how in Nebuchadnezzar's time he made an image that everybody can see, and although it's similar, the principle is similar, but it may not be something erected that everybody's seeing and bowing down to, in the sense of you could touch it and things like that. But it's going to be a law or reenactment of the principles that originated from the first beast. And so people are going to bow down to those laws.
Okay. All right. Great question there. Thank you very much.